No regrets, Coyote. We just come from such different sets of circumstance. I'm up all night in the studios and you're up early on your ranch.
Let's talk about a favourite song of mine then, Coyote. Is that actually based on a real event? Is it true?
I have to think about it. How do the words go?
You ask me.
No regrets, Coyote.
You've been saying for decades that you're writing an autobiography. Are you? Can we read it?
I started, I'm just doing vignettes, trying to get down. Well, they were going to make this movie about me, which I squelched. Thank God I squelched it. And I called the producer out and I said, if you're going to make this movie, it's going to be a piece of shit, And
Not that you weren't being diplomatic or anything.
and if you want to do this, you can annex me, show me the dailies, and I'll tell you while it's going down why it's a piece of shit. And that, because you don't have any of the great scenes. You've got, I had a child out of wedlock, but you don't know that I lived, in the Chinese white slavers, and I was going to have to, the banister rails were nearly all gone. You don't have the details, places.
Yeah. Without giving offense, to what do you owe your longevity in the business?
Smoking.
Smoking.
Anyway, in spite of all those differences and the humps you have to get over, like, she's lost her marbles. No, you can't do it that way, we finally came up with something we all like. But in the process, we had some online technical problems, and that's what I want to be sure, because...
Yeah.
At least they tested tones.
Recently, Whistle Test visited Joni at her studio in Santa Monica, California, where she was preparing for her first major art exhibition and putting the finishing touches to her latest album, Dog Eat Dog. Talking of album covers, actually, I'm reminded of two self-portrait covers you did some 12 years apart, and I'm wondering what's the difference between the girl on the front cover of Clouds and the woman on the front cover of Wild Things?
I think I'm pretty much the same as I was when I was 17 in a lot of ways. I would say that the main change is kind of an awakening of a social consciousness and to looking at a lot of wrinkle cream ads.
We just live in a society that has gotten out of hand on the newness factor. It just keeps getting ahead of itself. They'll get tired of a person's name or get tired of a person's look and stop seeing them. Stop seeing that Michael Jackson is a brilliant dancer. Stop seeing his moves. Whoa! Even if he keeps progressing, every generation has to be more shocking than the next. But I think we should start going the other way. Let's get rid of a little shock, get a little heart back in the culture. I hate to sound like Bush, kind of gentler culture, but it wasn't a bad idea.
Marcy in the coat of flowers stops inside a candy store. Reds are sweet and greens are sour, still no letter at the door. So she'll wash her flower curtains, hang them in the wind to dry, dust her tables with his shirt and wave another day goodbye.
nasal, and I don't really like that vocal period, the second and the third album, for that reason. And then Blue, I kind of get that all assimilates into a kind of a pop rock and roll voice out of, you know, vibrato and semi-classical singing.
So you think Blue is really your first mature, pardon the expression, album?
No, the first one was totally mature, but a different period,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
In Montreal, I just gave some interviews, and there, the interviewers were encouraging me to write another album like that, and that's what I said to them. Are you kidding? You know, you guys would pin me to the wall if I reveal like these kind of vulnerable things. You know, to be vulnerable in the 80s is death itself, isn't it? I mean, the whole world is striving to be hip and cool and you know, like, and well defended.
That doesn't leave much for music, though, doesn't it?
No, it makes music have a lot of posturing and not much real human spirit, but a lot of posing and posturing. I'm bad, I'm bad.
It's not your favorite record, is it?
No, I like that. I really see that's terrible, you know, but I mean, it's typical of how we must present ourselves in order to be hip in this decade, you know. Don't mess with me because I'm well defended. You would never go, you know, like, please be my friend, I'm not very well defended. You wouldn't offer yourself forward. No, they'd eat you alive, wouldn't you think? I think so.
I read that you said sometime that the intellect was a very overrated instrument, that you'd rather work from intuition. Is that how you still work?
Well, my intuition, I think, is more accurate than my intellect. My instinct will tell me, you know, first of all, like, instinct is like a computer chip. It's like Shakespeare on a pinhead. You get a lot of information very fast. Nyip. And now, if you want to expand on that, you would have to go to your intellect to expand it, to tell, but you would know, nyip, that fast with instinct, a tremendous amount. And if somebody said, what are you thinking? You have to now go to intellect to tell it. Mm-hmm. You know, so it's slower. Intellect is a lot slower. You can learn this fast. And sometimes intellect, too, will tell you, gets mixed up with image and all. It's slower and stupider. My female audience here suddenly thought I was taking pot shots at them because I started saying you a lot instead of I a lot, which gave them an out. Oh, she's talking about herself. Oh, she isn't talking about herself. Then she must be talking about us. Ah, I don't like the portrait. She's a bitch. You know, so. You have to imagine that this is like little snails crawling over leaves now with sticky substances coming out of their mouth. I mean, just this is chaos. All this is a lot of things coming at each other.
And out of this come ideas? Out of this come
Not
thoughts?
yet. No ideas yet. This is the mindless part of it.
Joni, the next stage seems a bit violent to me. Hang on.
It's a war zone. Yeah.
What? Do you get a lot of satisfaction? Is it very therapeutic, just simply to...
Abstract expressionism. Invented by New York drunks. So that they can raw like, oh, like plastered, feet on their canvas, you know. So this is a very boho phase of it. Yeah, you can beat it up now.
A lot of people traveling.
Did you carry a notebook around when you traveled and see a detail and write it down?
No.
I wish I could do that. Reporters carry notebooks. But the travels just gave you all of those people.
Carrie,
Yeah.
you know, great character. He blew out of a restaurant in Matala. That's how I met him. I was staring out towards Turkey and the sun is setting and the kaboom, and I turned around and here was this red-bearded, turbaned, all in whites like from Benares, India, blowing out the door of a restaurant. And I went, great entrance. I have to meet that person. Boom. It's like they just blew into my life, you know. He was a character.
And he sent me then to the refuge of the roads.
You talk about this odyssey of life. What's it taught you, this trip you've been on about life and about love?
when a generosity of spirit is in me and extending itself to others, that it's usually reciprocal, and that's probably the best feeling you can have on the planet. Not necessarily romantic love, you know, just love in general, you know, just a well-disposed human benevolence, you know. And life is a trip.
Can I quote you?
In her prose, she just goes, she's telling everything is going wrong in this little gypsy caravan with a canvas roof. It's raining, it's raining, it's raining, you know, and everything's going wrong. I smack my dogs. That's all she says.
No.
But I'm strong-willed. I'm like a Jack Russell, you know, like I'm going to do it the way I'm going to do it, you know.
I've been around through the whole quote-unquote rock and roll thing. You know, when rock and roll was born, it was a kind of a combination of church music with sex. It was like blasphemous church music. The second wave of rock and roll was a kind of an opportunistic wave on the part of business. They just started sending up pretty boys and pretty girls with not much talent and grooming them for it, Fabian, that period. People got quite sick of that, and out of that came a more serious era and the reemergence of the folk singer and lyric-oriented work. We've come through another pretty face, minimal talent, maximum good looks period, and a dance era, not unlike something. It's the second time I've been through it, and it seems that it's going to move in a similar manner that it did the last time, that it's going to be followed by a more pensive, lyric-oriented period. You have young women now coming up writing
Personal
songs.
and intelligent, though many have tried to inherit her mantle since, from Ricky Lee Jones to Suzanne Vega, not all have admitted her influence.
I've since met Suzanne Vega, who came up and said, "I love your music." I said, "Oh, well, that's not what you said in Ireland. That's not what you said in Italy." And she said, "Oh, wow," this was after her third album. She said, "I didn't realize then how much courage the job takes." And that's true, you know. So having experienced, it's easy to, like, snipe at me on her up, but after two, you know, like, critical failures under her belt, you know, a great tragedy hath humanized my soul.
Help me, I think I'm falling in love with you. Are you gonna let me go there by myself? That's such a long thing to do. Oh no, I'm flirting around, flirting and flirting, hurting too, because we love our loving. Oh, but not like we love our
If you believe what you read in the newspapers, over all the years that you've been in this business, you've had a lot of very, very close relationships with the people you work with, be they personal or very intense working relationships. Are they very important, those things, in creating the music you've made over the years?
In order to get the right spirit into the music, there's got to be more than a working relationship. There has to be a sense of passion about it. You know, to make an ideal communication, you know, to get close to the truth of anything, you have to be able to address yourself to at least four spirits. You know, there has to be something there for the heart, there has to be something there for the intellect, there has to be something there for sensuality and sensation, and there has to be some wit, you know, some things that are direct hits, brief and clear. And if you get the right amount of those vegetables into the broth, you know, then it's satisfying to me personally. The trouble is that the people who are heart primarily, they get their little part that's for heart, and then it goes zooming off into intellect, and they get left out, or intellect finding a pocket of heart says, "Oh, this is soppy," and blocks it, you know. So to make a complete communication and hold it there is very difficult. Oh no, it's still there.
We must be almost there. We've got to be, yeah, now we're there.
So you have these long stretches of close-up, the American attention span being altered down to zip, you know, like so. You dial the color up in through it.
So I just kept painting and painting, and for a while I was painting it, and eventually it turned around until it was painting me. We would come home from work, Larry and I, 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning, and if I looked at it while I was going up the stairs, I mean, if I just looked in the corner like that, it would just pull me over. And
it's like a good experimental time on relationship, the 90s, because we went too far one way in the 80s. It was like, you know, it was too lonely a route. There's hard times coming. People got to, you know, strengthen themselves and their compassion, because we've got hard times coming.
Okay. It's a good place to stop. Thanks. Can we get the guitar?
And finally I stopped the tape and I said to him, Victor, what's wrong? You know, don't you like the words? I hate the harmony, he said. My girlfriend Debbie, I hate the harmony. So many people, I hate the harmony. Well, either you like it or you don't. These strange chords, if they don't match, if they match you emotionally, they're a relief because they depict your feelings. If they don't, or if it's change you're on the brink of it and don't want to go through, you'll hate them, you know. Mm-hmm. So it's mostly like a C major chord. As a result, the songs have got a kind of a optimistic modality to it. And
how do you undercut that? How do you work against that optimism on the guitar?
Well, you hear that chord? Minor, inquiry, inquiry. So you got major and a minor and a doubt. There's always what I call inquiry notes in the voicing. Ominous, inquiry, doubt, possibility, resolution. So that's a complex emotion, isn't it? You know, back to a pure, uncomplicated emotion. Uncomplicated, joyous, positive, happy. Well, that's pretty much a minor with an inversion, but this one's... Now, I don't know the name, maybe that's a sus, or I don't know, like, the letter, alphabet, names of all this stuff, but so I identify it more by how the chord feels.
Empty at the sky, Marcy buys a bag of peaches, stops a postman passing by, and summer goes, falls to the sidewalk like string, and brown paper, winter blows up from the river, there's no to the sea.